This video is sponsored by Eureka Ergonomics' new Aero Standing Desk, which Eureka kindly sent to my editor Austin because editors deserve some love too, damn it. Get 10% off your purchase with offer code SKILLUP at checkout. Click the link to check it out right now or stick around to the end of the video to learn more. Gamers, listen, usually we do a bit of foreplay at the start of each episode, you know, buy a girl a drink first, that kind of thing. But there is simply no time for that this week because too much shit has gone down that we need to talk about. I mean, just as an example, the CMA blocked Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard 6 days ago. Doesn't that feel like it was 6 months ago? Jedi Survivor released on PC approximately 4 days ago. My brain genuinely believes that was like 3 to 4 weeks ago. The Redfall reviews dropped this morning and no, that actually feels really fresh. And believe me, we are going to talk plenty about those reviews. All right, no more time to waste. Let's get to it. Here comes the money shot. The news. Man, gotta be tough to be an Xbox fan this week for a lot of reasons, but gotta be even tougher to be an Xbox executive because at this point, you gotta be worried that you're gonna get one of those phone calls asking you to drop what you're doing and come meet HR in the soundproof meeting room. It started with Xbox posting their financials for the recent quarter, and it did not tell a good news story. Overall gaming revenue has declined 4% year on year, though content and services did grow by 3%, driven mainly by Game Pass. The more concerning figure was hardware sales, which were down 30% year on year. That is not good. The context of that is that this time last year, Xbox Series X and S supply was normalizing, while PS5 stock was still in short supply. So many people who couldn't earlier get an Xbox or who wanted to buy a PS5 but couldn't, they bought an Xbox Series console. That's fine and all, but we're still really early in the overall console lifecycle, and to see a 30% drop in a single year in hardware sales, that cannot be explained by last year's supply changes alone. You're gonna tell me that if Xbox had released a string of top quality exclusives in the last 12 months that number wouldn't be different? Come on now. I think it's equally concerning that this year, unless Starfield really pops off, there are no Microsoft games coming to convince people that an Xbox is an essential purchase. Redfall ain't it, as we will certainly discuss later. So yeah, it's all eyes on Starfield, but even if that's the greatest thing since Todd's dreamy blue eyes, is that going to be enough? Microsoft doesn't think so, which is why they've committed to purchasing one Activision Blizzard king for the eye-watering sum of $70 billion. It's a transaction that's been closely watched by the market, by regulators, by commentators, and by gamers since it was first announced. And Microsoft acquiring these studios and that library of IP, it's sure to have a transformative impact on the entire games industry. The deal requires the approval of the relevant regulatory bodies in the US, EU, and the UK, and there's been seemingly endless will they, won't they speculation. Well, this week we got the answer, and it's a resounding they won't. The UK's Consumer Markets Authority has oversight of the deal, and after an extensive review, they have said that they will not approve the merger, citing concerns about cloud gaming of all things. The CMA said in their press release, quote, "The CMA has prevented Microsoft's proposed purchase of Activision over concerns that the deal would alter the future of the fast-growing cloud gaming market, leading to reduced innovation and less choice for UK gamers over the years to come," end quote. You may be thinking, cloud gaming? Who cares about that? Well, the British for one, I guess, but also most of us, I suspect, will come to engage with cloud gaming more and more in the future as the technology improves. Look at the way we consume both music and movies right now, all of it cloud streamed from services like Netflix and Spotify. Microsoft already has a commanding presence in this space owing to its Azure infrastructure, a massive network of cloud farms that lets them host all manner of commercial and gaming cloud solutions. They also have xCloud, their consumer cloud gaming product, which accounts for a very large chunk of the overall cloud gaming market. The CMA argue that with exclusives like Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Diablo, and more, Microsoft could make those games exclusive to their cloud platforms, thereby stifling the emergence of competing cloud technologies. Do I agree with that? I don't fucking know, to be honest with you, but I will say that I am surprised that cloud gaming of all things was what done it. We've spent so long talking about Call of Duty when cloud was like this little mouse that roared. So I think it goes to show how little most of us know about these sorts of things, myself included. Microsoft President Brad Smith was the tip of the spear when it came to the response, posting on Twitter, quote, "We remain fully committed to this acquisition and will appeal. The CMA's decision rejects a pragmatic path to address competition concerns and discourages technology, innovation, and investment in the United Kingdom. We have already signed contracts to make make Activision Blizzard's popular games available on 150 million more devices, and we remain committed to reinforcing these agreements through regulatory remedies. We're especially disappointed that after lengthy deliberations, this decision appears to reflect a flawed understanding of the market and the way the relevant cloud technology actually works." End quote. Tough words made even tougher later on when in an interview he described the outcome as bad for Britain and the darkest day of Microsoft's 40 years operating in Britain. Another Microsoft spokesperson said something to the effect of, "This outcome makes it clear that Britain is closed for business." Quite the zinger. But yeah, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard have vowed to fight on and secure the deal, with Microsoft even going so far as to announce a new partnership with a European cloud provider called Enware. The partnership guarantees first-party Microsoft games on their platforms for the next 10 years, and it's just one of many similar deals with other cloud providers in other regions. Microsoft are clearly putting their money where their mouth is, but for now the CMA remains unconvinced. So what happens next? Well, basically the appeal process begins, and who knows how long that'll take. Some pundits predict a few months, others say it may take years. Either way, it's clear this deal isn't going through anytime soon, if ever, which will no doubt necessitate a radical rethinking in Microsoft's future gaming strategy, because you don't just buy a different $70 billion publisher with a legendary stable of IP. Uncle Phil is going to have to change it up big time, and absolutely no one but him and his team knows what that's going to look like yet. Stay tuned, we've got many more months of reporting on this one to go. Alright, so what else happened this week? Well, Star Wars Jedi Survivor arrived on all platforms bar PC. Sorry, my mistake. It's available on PC, but it may as well not be because the port is such a dumpster fire. Let's rewind a bit though. Jedi Survivor, we were all very excited about this one since the first game was great despite its flaws, and Respawn's a really good studio, so there was every reason to be hyped for this one. Reviews hit and they were glowing. 8s, 9s, even 10s across the board. However, it was pretty clear that precious few outlets had reviewed the game on PC. I was in the process of reviewing it on PC and I tweeted out like, guys, it's a good game, but the PC port is really bad. Don't buy it. That tweet did the rounds on social media, but it wasn't until the game's official PC release that people got to see for themselves what I was talking about. Immediately, within just a few hours, the game was at mostly negative on Steam, with just 23% of reviews being positive. That number did steadily improve with time and now sits at around 50% mixed on Steam, with almost every negative review decrying the state of the PC port. What are the issues? Well, frankly, they're too numerous to list, but I did do like a full 10-minute block on it in my review, which just passed 1 million views, by the way, so thanks very much for that, appreciate it. TLDR, it's totally broken, it doesn't use the hardware available to it, and it's the worst PC port of 2023, which is a big achievement because we've had some shitty PC ports in 2023, let me tell ya. Well, just about the same time as the game released and those negative reviews were pouring in, Respawn issued a weird statement that sort of blamed high-end PCs and not owning Windows 11 for the problems. Here's some of it. Quote, "We are aware that Star Wars Jedi Survivor isn't performing to our standards for a percentage of our PC players, in particular those with high-end machines or certain specific configurations. For example, players using cutting-edge multi-threaded chipsets designed for Windows 11 were encountering problems on Windows 10, or high-end GPUs coupled with lower-performing CPUs also saw unexpected frame loss. Rest assured, we are working to address these cases quickly. While there is no single comprehensive solution for PC performance, the team has been working on fixes we believe will improve performance across a spectrum of configurations." End quote. Okay, well, yep, that's cool, I guess, but maybe fix all this stuff before you release the game. Just a thought. I'm sure EA are chuckling at my naive suggestion because Jedi Survivor had some 63,000 concurrent players at one point, nearly 50% more than the highest concurrent player count for Jedi Fallen Order. Plus, the game is the second most successful box retail game of the year in the United Kingdom after Hogwarts Legacy. So when you wonder why publishers continue to release broken PC ports, it's simple. People keep fucking buying them. That's why I don't think it'll improve. Broken AAA games on day one is just what you should expect at this point. And if a game is actually functional, then that's kind of like a nice bonus. I feel like we're one step away from, we tested this game and it works, being a pre-order bonus exclusive. Damn, I really shouldn't be giving publishers any ideas. Hey, speaking of PC ports, the upcoming Golem game just released its recommended specs, and it turns out that in order to play this game at 4K Ultra with ray tracing on, you will need an RTX 4090 and you will need to have DLSS enabled and set to balanced. Now, if this was a truly like cutting edge video game with astounding visual fidelity, I'd be like, maybe. But look at this game. You mean to tell me this video game requires a 4090 with DLSS enabled to play with ray tracing? I don't know what the fuck is happening with PC ports, man. It's genuinely crazy to see how far we've done fall. One of the biggest PC flops for the past year was Sony's The Last of Us. Typically a publishing label that puts a huge premium on quality, not even they were above shoving out a dodgy port, with the suspicion being that they were keen to cash in on the success of the TV show. The Last of Us may have been a disappointing PC port, but that certainly hasn't curbed Sony's ambitions in the PC space. They announced strong performance for PC sales and said, quote, "We aim to continue creating new IP, rolling out catalog titles for PC, and strengthening live service development," end quote. It's not surprising, since it only makes sense to continue their strategy of console first, PC later. It's working for them, since it keeps their hardware selling, and they get to double dip with PC enthusiasts and the modding community later. I love Xbox's day one console and PC parity, but you gotta hand it to Sony. The way they're doing it makes a lot of sense if the goal is to sell a bunch of consoles once and a bunch of games twice. Alright, I told you this was a big week, but we are not nearly done yet, because just a few days ago, our Lord and Savior FromSoft released the first set of actual gameplay for Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon. Shall we take a look? I think we should take a look. Roll it, Austin. Doesn't this look sick? Hell yeah, it does. And look, I'm not going to pretend that I'm an Armored Core fan. I've never played one before. But this series has 15 entries and was keeping FromSoft going in the pre-Dark Souls phase. So there's got to be something special to it, right? Big question that everyone has about this is, what the hell is it? Is it a sequel? Is it a reboot? Is this for existing fans or newcomers? Is it a Souls-like with mechs or a mech game with Souls-like elements? We don't know. Luckily, Eurogamer did an excellent interview with the game's producer, Yosunori Ogura, and he says that it's a lot of those things actually. He certainly didn't say this is a Souls-like, but he did say that many of the philosophies and approaches that the studio have developed over the past 10 years are applied here. He also says the game is intended for long-time series fans as well as newcomers, but that they should expect a fresh new take, not just compared to previous Armored Core games, but compared to any and all mech game before it. Ogura feels confident that they've arrived at a gameplay loop that is fresh and will set the tone for future mech combat games, and while that's a big call, it's FromSoft we're talking about here, so I'm inclined to believe him. Consistent with From's overall approach, we should definitely expect the game to be challenging, and there's a huge focus on customization and loadouts, with different parts having a material impact on your playstyle rather than just being minor stat tweaks. It all sounds very promising, to be honest, and it's unsurprising since few developers have been able to maintain a quality bar as high as FromSoft, especially with how much they have output. I mean, Dark Souls released 12 years ago. Think of how many seminal experiences we've had from that developer, delivered in the same length of time that it's taken Rockstar to make GTA 6. Still unreleased, by the way. Anyway, to cap all of this off, we finally have a release date for this bad boy, August 25th for the PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. Bandai Namco, you have my number. Just call anytime. Thanks. A quick lightning round to finish off. Forza Motorsport is currently in the polishing phase, meaning that the 2023 release window is all but locked in. The word came directly from the studio, Playground Games, who said that they were still taking feature and track requests, suggesting that support for the game will continue for some time after the initial release. The Forza games have always maintained a very high bar, and if there is one thing that Xbox needs right now, it's an exclusive that hits a very high bar. Veteran strategy designer and XCOM game lead Jake Solomon left Firaxis a short time ago, and he says that his next game won't be a strategy game. We still don't know exactly what it'll be, but thanks to an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun, we have an inkling: life sim. Jake spoke with the interviewer about his love of Minecraft and how he almost made a spin on that, which involved crafting animals that would be your pets. The project collapsed, but it seems to have stuck with Jake, so expect him to pick that up again when he gets funding for his new studio. Survival game Don't Starve Together is smashing its concurrent player count records at the moment. It just hit an all-time peak of nearly 108,000 current players, which is like bigger than Destiny's average concurrent player count of between 50 and 100k. You want to know why Don't Starve blew up? It's on sale. 2 copies of the game for $1.50. They are selling their game for 75 cents at the moment. I don't know how long that sale runs for, but if you're hearing this and you want to grab it, head over to Steam real quick. The upcoming Asus ROG Ally is getting plenty of positive buzz behind it. The handheld PC is taking the Steam Deck head on with the promise of significantly better specs and a much better screen. The question mark was always going to be around the price, but if a recent leak is to be believed, this thing should come in at around $699 for the base model, which is definitely playing in the Steam Deck price playground. For me, it's going to come down to usability and support, since the deck has that stuff down. We'll see how all of this lands when the Ally launches later this year. What Long Fallen Dynasty has sold through over 1 million units and reached 3.8 million people. That's according to the game's official Twitter account. It's interesting because it showcases not only a successful launch, which is great, but also the proportion of Game Pass users to sales, since the 2.8 million people who didn't pay for it obviously played it on Game Pass. Game Pass metrics always feel like a bit of a black box, so it's nice to get a look behind the curtain every now and then. And finally, if you're wondering when we're going to be hearing more about the Phantom Liberty expansion for Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red have just announced that they're planning to do a big push at the Summer Games Fest in June. I will be there. Will Idris Elba be there? Almost certainly not, but a man can dream. So what got announced or delayed this week? Well, really nothing, actually. The only other thing than that Armored Core release date was a release date for Star Trek Resurgence. This is an original Star Trek story set after the events of Next Gen. It's a narrative-led RPG. Think Detroit Become Human, but the androids are less sexy. No offense to Data. This one is coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and the Epic Games Store on May 23rd. No word yet on an eventual Steam release, but it's probably 12 months later like the rest of them. So, what came out last week? Well, we had that Strayed Lights drop, and it's done pretty well for itself. This is that action-adventure Sekiro-like with a focus on parrying attacks while being the same color as the attacks coming at you. It looks tricky but clever, and the initial feedback is positive. Steam reviews have it at a mostly positive 73%, and critics are nearly identical at a fair 74 on OpenCritic. Push Square scored this one a 7 out of 10, saying, quote, "Ember's debut game is beautifully presented with an interesting but flawed combat system. Lovely music, thanks to Journey composer Austin Wintory, and excellent boss battles make it worth your time," end quote. Honkai Star Rail arrived last week. You wouldn't know it if you're only hooked into the traditional subreddits and discourse, because these sorts of games don't get much of a look in there, but Genshin Impact is absolutely gigantic, one of the biggest games of the last few years, and Honkai Star Rail from the same developer looks on track to be equally massive. In its opening window alone, it attracted some 20 million downloads. It also doesn't hurt that pretty much every critic review is glowing. There's no aggregate score on OpenCritic yet, but it's getting solid 8s, 9s, and 10s across the board. PC Gamer scored it a 90, saying, quote, "Despite its gacha systems, Honkai Star Rail is an impeccable turn-based RPG with a killer visual style," end quote. Rock Paper Shotgun were equally impressed, saying, quote, "Honkai Star Rail is still in its early stages, but this free-to-play turn-based gacha game is incredibly good fun. With a strong opening, heavy focus on story, and simple but deep turn-based battles, this RPG is bursting with potential," end quote. Looks like Genshin Impact was anything but a fluke. These people know what they're doing. I can't comment on the gacha stuff because I've actually never properly played Genshin, but I will admit that these sorts of reviews do leave me very intrigued. I'll check it out at some point, and if you'd like to do the same, then you can do so right now on PC and mobile, with a PlayStation port coming sometime in the future, but no word on that yet. The last case of Benedict Fox is a bit of a funny one, it seems. This one debuted strongly last year and then kind of went radio silent. It launched last week to very little fanfare, not much in the way of hype or marketing. Apparently the Xbox version of the game is in rough shape, but I've only heard rumblings about that, nothing confirmed. I don't believe they sent out review code early, which is really a good sign. On Steam though, it's sitting at a mostly positive 72%, which is a good result, and some of the early critic reviews have been very positive, though no major outlets have a review up owing to that late code. So yeah, it's a funny one, but it looks nice, and the Steam reviews are good, so if you want to check it out, you can grab it on PC or Xbox. It is also on Game Pass. Final release for the week was Star Wars Jedi Survivor. We've obviously spoken in great detail about this one already, but we were focused on the PC port back then. What about the rest of the game? Is it good? Do the critics like it? Yes, it is good, and yes, the critics love it. Star Wars Jedi Survivor sits at a mighty 86 on OpenCritic, which is a very strong result. IGN loved it, scoring it a 9, saying, quote, "If Respawn make a third game like Star Wars Jedi Survivor and Fallen Order, it'll complete the best Star Wars trilogy in 30 years, hands down," end quote. GameSpot too were big fans, scoring it 8 out of 10 and saying, quote, "Star Wars Jedi Survivor improves upon its predecessor's gameplay and storytelling to deliver an engrossing story of a Jedi grappling with morality," end quote. I know a lot of people are wondering why the critics didn't go harder on the PC performance side of things in their reviews. I think it's important to recognize that most reviewers actually don't review games on PC, and also when they do, they might not have the performance problems that others do because PCs are fickle like that. So I don't really see this as a failure of the review process, but I do think it would be cool if more reviewers requested PC code, because right now, the number of garbage tier quality PC ports we are getting is very concerning. And if you'd like to hear more about that topic, I direct you to the most recent episode of the Frames Per Second podcast, where we discuss it at length. I will leave a link to that below the like button. So what's coming out this week? Well, it's an interesting week, let me tell you. On the quieter end of the spectrum, we've got Age of Wonders 4 arriving exclusively for PC today. The 4X strategy franchise makes a return after a long hiatus, and the reviews are already out. That's what publishers do when they are confident in their titles. More on that very soon. Anyway, Age of Wonders is apparently excellent and a very safe purchase if you're a 4X fan. It's sitting at a mighty 84 on OpenCritic, a great result. Eurogamer recommended it, saying, quote, taking inspiration from RPGs breathes new life into Age of Wonders 4, which balances exciting breadth and surprising approachability, end quote. And Shack News were well won over, scoring at a 9 and saying, quote, the nearly decade-long gap between releases gave Triumph the chance to polish Age of Wonders 3's weak points and come up with substantial improvements to combat and presentation. The result is one of the best grand strategy games in ages, end quote. You may have noticed my oh-so-subtle dig at titles electing to avoid pre-release reviews, and that brings us to one of the biggest news stories of the week, and one of the biggest disappointments in gaming history, Redfall. So, right off the top, Bethesda did not send me a review code for this, so I am currently playing through it at the moment. I'm not going to say anything yet, I will instead let the Metacritic score do the talking. Redfall, from Arcane Studios, makers of Dishonored, Prey, and the recent Game of the Year contender Deathloop, is currently sitting at 66 on OpenCritic, which makes it the lowest rated Xbox published game this console generation. In fact, to find a lower score than this, you need to go back to Forza Street, a mobile game released back in 2020 that got a 51 on Metacritic. Redfall is of course published by Bethesda, but now it's owned by Xbox and Microsoft, and Redfall, an Arcane Studios game, is the lowest rated game that Microsoft have released since 2019. The Battletoads reboot reviewed better than an Arcane game. What the hell happened? Bethesda's PR unit did its absolute best to hide the state of this game prior to release, selectively issuing review code, sending out code just 3 days prior to release, and setting the review embargo time to after the actual release of the game. Absolutely classic Bethesda PR moves right there, but reviewers reviewed it nonetheless, and yeah, you can see why Bethesda's PR were pulling out every stop to try to pull the wool over people's eyes. GameSpot scored this one a 4 out of 10, saying, quote, ultimately Redfall is a game that should not have been released yet. Its litany of bugs hampers the gameplay loop of exploring its world with friends, and the loop itself feels compromised by elements that are poorly executed and ill-suited to the team implementing them. I can't pretend to know whether Arcane chose to make a looter shooter or was assigned to make a looter shooter, but I can tell you what it feels like. One of the best game studios in the world suddenly made toothless, end quote. Well Played scored this one a 4.5 out of 10, saying, quote, it's an overstuffed, unsatisfying array of mechanics and storytelling ideas that have been dated for a good while now, and without any of the flavor that makes this studio's work so appealing, the game finds itself without much of an identity. Redfall feels like someone fed Arcane prompts to an AI, and I can't think of anything sadder, end quote. God damn, that is a good line. Reviewer Mr. Matty Plays called this Arcane's Fallout 76 moment, and G-Man called it undercooked, unfinished, and really disappointing. There are of course some more positive reviews like Cog Connected, who scored it a 78 and said, quote, Redfall does not revolutionize the open world shooter or even really evolve Arcane Austin's by now familiar formula. Redfall feels like the product of a reliable game plan that's due for an update, end quote. But even the positive reviews are putting this one at around a 7 for an Arcane game that was in development for at least 5 years and that was the follow-up to Prey and Prey Mooncrash, some of the best immersive sims in the history of the genre. This is an absolutely catastrophic result for Arcane, for Bethesda, and for Microsoft, and it could not have come at a worse time as Microsoft are losing control of the narrative. They purchased Bethesda for $8 billion back in 2020, and this is the first AAA release since that purchase, as Hi-Fi Rush definitely fits more into that niche AA category. It'll be interesting to see what Microsoft does in response to this. When Halo Infinite flopped, Microsoft cleaned house at 343, doing a full changeover of its senior leadership. Will they be eyeing the same sort of changeover here at Bethesda? Who knows, but with the dearth of AAA bangers in both 2022 and now 2023, you have to imagine that Microsoft's head honchos aren't in the mood for more of the same. Personally, I'm very disappointed about this because Arcane is a studio I greatly admire, and it's very sad to see them brought so low. As I said, I'm currently playing through the game and we'll have my review out later this week. Be sure to subscribe and ding the bell so you'll know the minute that review is live. Alright, so what else is coming out this week? Well, Harry Potter fans still stuck on last-gen systems. This is your week. The Xbox One and PS4 versions of the game were delayed some time back, but they're arriving on the 5th. Gonna be curious to see how well they run on last-gen consoles, since they didn't run particularly well on the next-gen consoles. Keen for the Digital Foundry breakdowns on this one. Final release for the week is one I profiled earlier in my Put This On Your Radar segment. Darkest Dungeon 2 is the follow-up to the breakout dungeon crawling roguelite with a psychological torment twist. This one's had a significant glow-up in terms of presentation, making the jump from 2D to 3D, while still retaining its arresting art style. This has actually been in early access on the Epic Games Store for the past year and it's been getting great feedback. As always, thank you to the Epic Games Store for beta testing our games, so we can then go and buy them on Steam. That's out on the 8th, exclusive to PC for now. I assume console ports will arrive later. Recently, I was invited by a developer to go hands-on with their game. I always love those opportunities, and yeah, this one was really rad, so put this on your radar. This is KarmaZoo, and it's from indie developer Pasta Games. They make games for other companies as contractors, but they also have a number of their own passion projects on the side, and this is one they've been chipping away at over the past 7 years. At first glance, it's a pretty straightforward 2D platformer where you jump on ledges and stand on switches to get to the end of a level. Things start to get more complex when you have up to 9 other people playing with you at the same time, and levels dynamically scale to give those 9 people things to do. Stuff like holding doors open for each other, or allowing you to drop cubes so that other people can jump on them, etc. That's the whole premise of the game actually. The developers spoke about the fact that this game is inspired by the French Metro, where people hold the door open for each other as they exit. As such, KarmaZoo gives you karma for helping people, and the more karma you get, the more new characters you can unlock, of which there are like 50, and each of those have their own unique look and abilities that can help the team. It's a really fascinating little game that I think already has a lot to teach about co-op game design, and I'm not at all surprised that Devolver Digital picked this one up, because Devolver has a very keen eye indeed. This one has no release date yet, but it's scheduled for sometime in 2023. If you'd like to check it out or maybe even wishlist it, I've profiled it over on my Steam Curator page, which also has links to all of the other Put This On Your Radar stuff I've recently covered. I'll leave a link to all of that below the like button. Sort of free stuff time now, and it is the beginning of the month, which means that there is a lot of sort of free stuff, like Epic, for example, who are feeling particularly generous this week and have up to 5 games up for grabs free of charge. 2 of those are live right now. They are Poker Club as well as Breathage, which is kind of like Subnautica in space, but not good, sadly. Those 2 disappear on May 5th, at which time 3 new games become available to grab. The first is Against All Odds, and this one is actually a brand new release that Epic are just giving away for free on day 1. You can understand why, since this very much fits their MO. It's basically gory Fall Guys, but it looks fun, and if the giveaway can help get a critical mass of players, then maybe this is the next big thing, who knows? Horizon Chase Turbo takes us back to the glory days of the old Outrun games. Those were good times, and I'm glad someone's keeping them alive. Finally, KO the Kangaroo is the 3rd free Epic game for the month. This series comes from a Polish developer, I believe. I am fairly certain that they do not have kangaroos in Poland, just really good pierogi. So I will let you steal our native animal and make a game out of it, so long as you keep the dumplings coming. Alright, Xbots, you guys are going through it right now, but do I have some good news for you? No, I don't actually. That wasn't a rhetorical question, and the answer is a resounding no. Games with Gold delivers Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. It's a classic, obviously, but it was also released back before most of the people watching this video were born. Still, it has a higher Metacritic rating than Redfall, so there you go. Microsoft are also giving away Hoa, which, to be honest, actually looks quite wonderful, and it came out in this millennium, which is a nice bonus. Game Pass. Oh yeah, so this was meant to be a big week of celebration, a show of strength for Microsoft and the value of Game Pass day and date AAA releases. Not so much, it seems, as Redfall reviews have taken any and all wind out of the sails and will no doubt call into question Microsoft and Bethesda's entire approach to publishing. Outside of that, there isn't a huge amount to crow about in terms of new Game Pass additions, in large part because I'm sure Microsoft were hoping that Redfall would be enough. It is clearly not. Man, can you imagine if Starfield suffers the same fate? I don't even want to think about it. Sony ponies, do I have better news for you? I do actually. The PS Plus lineup for the month has been revealed, and while it's nothing mind-blowing, it's solid enough. Headlining things is Grid Legends, a very respectable racing title if you're into that sort of thing. Chivalry 2 is of course a massive laugh, either solo or with your mates, so if you're in the mood for some casual limb lopping, then that's available for both PS4 and 5. Finally, Descenders is a game that picks up where Ubisoft's Trials games have left off, and apparently it's pretty good. I've heard nothing but positive buzz about it, and it's available for PS4 this month. Final shout is for Prime Gaming. If you are subscribed to either Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime, then Amazon will happily hand over a handful of games each month. Highlights this month include the excellent but also very dated Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3D, and big month for retro Star Wars games, isn't it? Planescape Torment Enhanced Edition is there if you'd like to experience one of the defining CRPGs. Lake is a game about delivering parcels. It feels kind of weird when Amazon gives that one away for free, sort of like propaganda or something, I don't know. There's also some smaller titles on there, as well as a collection of classic SNK titles. So yeah, they will all go live at various points throughout the month, so be sure to check the exact date and grab them when they're live. Our feel-good story for the week is for the golden oldies out there, or for those soon-to-be golden oldies, or just for anyone really, since we all get old, hopefully. The AARP is a US-based organization aimed at empowering those over the age of 50, and they committed themselves to the important task of asking, do old people play video games? Turns out they do. A survey of some 7,800 people found that 45% of people over 50 played games at least once a month. That's a 7% increase versus when the poll was first conducted back in 2016. But get this, in the same period, the average time spent playing rose from 8.5 hours a week to 12 hours a week. That is awesome. I know a lot of people who'd love to be able to play 12 hours of games a week, so, you know, it's good that the over 50s are getting in there. It's not all good news though. It turns out that of those surveyed, 84% of them are playing mobile games. 12 hours a week of mobile games. That is a dire figure. The survey also explored pain points, and outside of my knees, respondents said that, quote, their enjoyment was somewhat or strongly decreased by having to watch ads to make progress, needing in-app purchases to make progress, the amount of ads in games, and the number of notifications to purchase things in games, end quote. Most of those figures were around 55%, so it's kind of alarming to know that 45% of people over the age of 50 are okay with the state of mobile gaming, but it's also nice to know that 55% of them are complaining about it just as much as we do. So sit tight, old timers, we'll be there very soon to help lend our voice to the chorus. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the show, which means I can put it off no longer. I have to go and play more Redfall now. 1 like equals 1 less bug during my playthrough, and believe me, based on my time with it, I will need all the likes I can get. Our review will go live sometime this week, and like I said, if you want to know the minute that's live, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll get a handy notification. That's what we all need in our lives, right? More notifications on our phone. Thank you very much for stopping by as always, and a big thank you to this week's sponsor, Eureka, who hooked up my editor Austin with a sweet desk. Let's take a look at how that's doing. So, regular viewers may recall that a few months back, Eureka Ergonomics reached out to me being like, hey man, would you like a standing desk? But I already had a standing desk. So I suggested that we send it to my editor Austin, who for the last few years has been working on a set of precariously stacked cardboard boxes. So a standing desk would be a nice upgrade for him. Eureka agreed, and so this is Austin's Aero standing desk with the classy walnut finish. And since he's had it for a while now, I thought it'd be nice to check in with Austin to see how satisfied he is with the desk. So, Austin, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, man. So tell me, are you liking the desk?
Yeah, so I really love it. It's big enough to hold all of my stuff. It's very sturdy, very easy to make it go up and down, so I'm standing a lot these days. Overall, I can't complain. I really like it.
All right, nice. So, bottom line, would you recommend the desk to other people if they were in the market for a standing desk?
Yeah, 100% I would.
Cool. All right, well, there you have it. Austin spends an inordinate amount of time at his desk slaving away, editing my content. So if he says it's a good desk, it's probably a good desk. It's an unsurprising endorsement since this thing is like the Cadillac of standing desks. The wing-shaped design provides a surrounding environment that is perfect for ease of access to your devices, an ergonomic view for multiple monitors, while creating a uniquely visual style for your workplace. It also has all the bells and whistles, including shelves you can adjust to different positions, holsters for your mobile devices, headphones, cup holders, and a tray for your keyboard and mouse, not to mention a very stealthy cable management system for a super clean look. Best of all, it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if you're all dissatisfied with it, you just reach out to Eureka and you get your money back. Easy. To grab one for yourself, click the link below, and when it's time to check out, just use offer code SKILLUP for a 10% discount off your purchase. That's offer code SKILLUP after you click that link below in the description or the pinned comment. Thanks Eureka Ergonomics for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.